Hi, my name is Nick, and today I'm going to show you how to make your first Mogrt in After Effects. I'll begin with the very basics and dabble a little bit into some of the intermediate topics you'll want to learn more about as you continue making Mogrts. After you finish this video, you'll end up with a simple Mogrt you can open with Premiere Pro and customize with several different controls. Let's begin. First we'll need to open After Effects, and then we'll need to create a new composition. You can see that where my mouse is hovering towards the top of After Effects, that we have access to different workspaces. You can see I made sure that the Essential Graphics panel is checked. We'll use this panel to export and manage the controls for our Mogrt. Once you've made sure your Essential Graphics panel is open and ready to go, make sure you select the correct composition. We've only got one composition, but if we had multiple, we'd have to make sure the right composition was selected before continuing. Now that we've got that sorted, let's create a couple new layers. I'll put in a new solid and a new text layer. Inside of our Essential Graphics panel, you'll see the button that says Solo Supported Properties. If we click this, it will open up all the properties that we can simply drag into our Essential Graphics panel. You can see that if I drag in the source text property, a control is automatically made for us. Now Premiere users can change the text. Let's go ahead and add the text opacity property and the solid opacity property as well. While we're at it, I'll go ahead and change the names of these controls to something descriptive and useful. You can see that if I drag these sliders around or type in new text, it reflects in After Effects. If you can mess with the controls in the Essential Graphics panel, you'll be able to mess with them in Premiere, so we know that these are working just fine. You may be wondering how we'd ever make useful Mogrts if the only solo supported properties we see are source text and opacity. Obviously, Premiere users are going to want to change more things, such as color or size. Lots of other controls, including those two, can be made for Premiere users. It isn't too difficult either. It's just not quite as easy as adding the source text or opacity sliders we've got already. If we wanted to add a color control for our text and for our solid, we'll notice that there is no easy property to just drag into our Essential Graphics panel, but that's okay because we can add one. Go ahead and click on the Effects and Presets panel and search for Fill. Take the fill effect and drag that on both the text and solid layer. If we click the Solo Supported Properties button 2 times, it will refresh and reveal that the fill effect has a solo supported property under the name of color. So now we can just drag color into our Essential Graphics panel. While we're at it, I'll name it something nice and organize our controls a bit. You can see this button in the bottom left of the Essential Graphics panel titled Add Comment. If we click that, we can add a comment field and use it to space out or describe our controls. As you can see, I've added a blank comment to create a gap between the text controls and the background controls. If our Mogrt was a bit more complicated, we can even create a comment with instructions on how to use the Mogrt. All of these actions will make our controls more intuitive to our Premiere users. There we go, we've added some color controls to our Mogrt. What about text size though? Premiere users will absolutely want to change the size depending on how long or short their text is, but for some reason it isn't available as a solo supported property, meaning we can't just drag it into our Essential Graphics panel. How do we add a scale control then? Well, as you continue to work with Mogrts, you'll hear the word expressions more and more. Expressions are little snippets of code that we can insert into our properties in After Effects to tell them what to do. I have an entire video dedicated to introducing them, and you can watch that here. That's not what this video is about, however, so I'll keep it simple. What we're going to do is create our own slider and make our scale property equal to our custom slider using expressions. Once we've done this, we can just drag our own slider into the Essential Graphics panel, and we'll have our very own text size slider. Because I often create custom controls, I have a habit, and what I do is I create a null layer, and I hold all my controls in there kind of like the null layer was a folder. Let's go ahead and create a null layer right now. Now as we select the null layer, we can go to the Effect menu, Expression Controls, and then to Slider Control to create our own slider. We can look off to our left and see our slider in the Effects Control panel. It worked. We can also see the slider control inside of our null layer as an effect property. To open our scale property, we can highlight our text layer and press S. Now we need to make an expression. To do this, hold Alt or Option, depending on if you're on Windows or Mac, and click the little stopwatch by our scale property. There we go, we've got an expression. Now all we have to do is make sure it's setting our scale equal to our slider. Now like I said, I will not be going into expressions in this video. All we're going to do is link this expression to our slider. To do this, we're going to pick whip our slider, which will automatically type in all the code we need to link these two together. All we have to do is grab our pick whip and drag it up to our slider. Perfect. We can see that the slider is working just fine. Obviously the text looks a little weird since it isn't centered, but we'll worry about making this Mogrt pretty in the next video. Now to add the slider into Premiere, we just have to drag it into the Essential Graphics panel. If you're like me, your first instinct may be to drag it in from the Effects Control panel into the Essential Graphics panel, but for some reason, this doesn't work in this version of After Effects. What we need to do is drag the property in from our timeline. We can edit the range of our slider from inside of the Essential Graphics panel as well. We'll likely want our scale to be from a larger range than 0 to 100. Now let's just say we're finished with the Mogrt for now, even though this is a two-part series and we'll continue to work on it. If we wanted to export the Mogrt, we could press the Export Motion Graphic Template button on the bottom right of the Essential Graphics panel. Once we're here, we have options to export directly to one of our Adobe libraries or to our choice of directory on our computer. After we've exported it, we're completely set to load it into Premiere. Alright, we've created our first Mogrt. It gives a Premiere user access to text, text color, background color, opacity controls, and text size. We've covered the foundations of Mogrt development in this video, and that's the hard part to get through. In the next video, we'll have fun making this Mogrt look fantastic and adding a cool animation to it. You can check out the next video here. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, you might enjoy the rest of my channel. I've got all sorts of content about Mogrt creation and some very cool tips and tricks.